So welcome everybody and good evening. And welcome to our first Zoom talk with local farmers. Today's program, Women in Farming, Growing Food on Long Island, features three incredible local farmers: Jennifer Halsey Dupree from the Milk Pail Farm, Jennifer Pike from Pike Farms, and Patty Gentry from Early Girl Farm. And our moderator is journalist Charity Roby. So thank you all and especially to our farmers, for taking time from the fields to join us and for all the wonderful work you're doing to help feed our communities. And to the audience out there, I'm Yvette Salcedo from the Peconic Land Trust, and I'll be the host for today's panel. We'll be facilitating the technology, so fingers crossed everything goes well. I do know there's one person who just emailed me, said they were having a problem getting in, so we'll try to adjust that as we go. I believe we're also live streaming on Facebook, so for everybody out there at Facebook, welcome as well. I hope everyone is doing well, staying safe and healthy, and from all of us at the Trust, we wish you the best and are grateful that you're choosing to spend a little time with us this evening. And I'd like to make a shout out to Kathy Kennedy, our Senior Manager of Outreach. Kathy was the driving force in organizing tonight's talk, along with Amy Kerwin, our co-host from the Southampton Arts Center. We thank Kathy, Amy, and the team at SAC for their support, and we'll hear from Amy in a few moments. On a housekeeping note, you are muted during the conversation, but at the end, we'll be answering questions from the audience. So please use the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen to post a question, and we'll try to answer as many of these as possible. A little bit on the Trust. As you know, the Trust was founded in 1983 with a mission to conserve Long Island's working farms, natural lands, and heritage. And with your help, as well as the support of thousands of individuals, partner organizations, foundations, community groups, and all levels of government, we've been able to accomplish a lot. We've protected over 13,000 acres of land, including over 6,000 acres of farmland that is available to farmers growing food and many other agricultural products. An important piece of our mission, the use of the term working farms. We know that protection of farmland is the first step, and it's part of a continuum that is beyond the beautiful landscape and vistas. Protecting the resource, the land, and then helping farmers be as productive and successful as possible on the land is the next step. We've supported their efforts to provide local food to our communities through affordable access to land, administering grants and programs that help them grow, and offering educational programs to help maintain their high standards. All of this and more, we're able to do every day because of supporters like you. So thank you. So before moving on to the main event, I'd like to give our co-host, Amy Kerwin from the Southampton Arts Center, a few minutes to say hello. Amy.
Hi, everyone. So great to see all of you who are logging in. I've recognized some folks out there. Irene Tully, shout out to California, and Pat Sanders, and a lot of our other Southampton Arts Center supporters who are also big lovers of Peconic Land Trust. So I'm really, really pleased that so many people have logged on to take advantage of this incredible panelist of strong women in farming. So I know nothing about that, and I'm just delighted that we get to work with Peconic Land Trust to take the reins on things that we don't know about, which is why we love partnering with everybody so much, so we can co-present these types of programs. And we were supposed to have an exhibition right now that tied into this theme, which is how this conversation started. Peconic Land Trust was and will be, what was going to be and will be a partner of ours on this exhibition, which I'm not going to go into detail about. But they were going to be, and they will be when we do it next year. It'll be really exciting, so look for it. This was meant to be part of that, but now we've taken it virtual. So thank you to Yvette for pulling all this together. Technically, I'm gonna tap into her brain after this for when we have to do that without hand-holding. So thank you all to Patty and Jennifer and Jen, and of course to Charity for doing this. We really appreciate it. And I'm going to go away, and I think I'll watch on Facebook so that I don't exist here on the screen. And I'm gonna eat my dinner and watch and enjoy. So, and my dogs bark all the time, so you don't want me here. So I'm gonna watch silently. So thank you again, and thank you all for watching. And do check out southamptonartscenter.org for all that we have going on as well. So, and be safe and healthy.
Thanks, Amy.
You're welcome.
And we're looking forward, hopefully in the near future, to be partnering with Southampton Arts on many, many programs, including the one that kind of precipitated tonight's talk. So more to come.
Secretive, yes. Thank you.
So
We look forward
now-
to it too.
Yeah. So now I'd like to introduce our moderator with a big thank you. So Charity Roby. And Charity writes for the Shelter Island Reporter and was awarded first place for columns by the New York Press Association in 2017. Her work also appears in Newsday and the New York Times. And so she let me in on a little secret, but in particular, check out this Sunday's Metro section of the New York Times, which will feature an article by Charity about farms here on Long Island and the Hudson Valley and how they're coping during this current crisis. And look out for the next issue of Newsday's Feed Me, which I also think will have an article with Charity on fruit farms here on Long Island. So another interesting bit that Charity shared with me was her research on scallop flavor and history is part of a paper that she gave at the Oxford Symposium on Food and Cookery, published in 2018, and she is a programming chair for the Culinary Historians of New York. Charity writes about hunting, farming, fishing, and tending a sourdough starter called The Beast. You can see more of her writing on her website, which is charityroby.com. And so just quickly again, before I turn it over to the program to Charity and go and I'll answer some questions in the chat related to technology. But just remember, if you'd like to pose a question, use the Q&A at the bottom. I see a few people have already posted questions, so I'm looking forward to that. And with that, I turn it over to Charity with my sincere thanks and welcome to all these wonderful women farmers. I can't wait to hear more about the work that you're doing and the food that you're growing. So thank you.
Thanks, Yvette. Thank you very much. I appreciate that lovely introduction. And I'm glad you mentioned The Beast, my sourdough starter, because that I fancy myself a farmer. Because I have, it's animal husbandry, right? If you have a sourdough starter, that, I figure I'm a farmer, but maybe not. Let's meet some real farmers. So I'm really delighted to introduce this panel. You guys are amazing, and I'm mainly going to let you sort of introduce yourself, but I want to just sort of give some basic background. I'll start with Jennifer Pike of Pike Farm. So the farm was established in '87, and I think by your husband Jim Pike, and you joined the farm in '95. You have a huge. You have a farm stand on in Sagaponack on Sag Main Street, and you are known for originally sweet corn and tomatoes, a handful of other vegetables. Started out on 20 acres. You are now up to 70. Some of that on leased land, and you produce amazing numbers of vegetables: strawberries, raspberries, blackberries, melons. And a very, very beloved farm. And, I just tell us a little bit about how you got into it and what's your approach to farming.
I married into it. It kind of was already going on when I got joined in. We are up to, like you said, over 60 acres, 6 different parcels that we use. 3 of them we own, thanks to Peconic Land Trust's efforts to encourage people to sell their development rights and the town to buy development rights and enhance development rights, which helps keep the land with farmers as opposed to other uses of open space. The prime farmlands, it's important to keep them farming. We do have a greenhouse at our home, a 3,000 square foot greenhouse. Do all our own transplants and our greenhouse tomatoes. We do over 16,000 tomato plants by the end of the year. We'll do 6,000 peppers, 4,000 basil plants, 45,000 lettuce heads. A lot's going on. Lots going on in our little world. Actually, I showed this once before. This is a list. I don't know if you can see too well, but it's all the things we grow and what my husband goes through each morning and checks off and tells everybody to go pick during the course of the day. It's obviously the whole years. We don't pick strawberries and pumpkins at the same time, but that gives you an idea of how many different things we've got going on and why we look so crazy sometimes. There's a lot going on in our little world. We have beehives now, which is exciting.
Terrific. That's great. Let me introduce next Patty. This is Patty Gentry of Early Girl Farm. So 25 years in the restaurant business before she turned to farming, which is amazing. And I believe you told me that you were you were largely motivated by the desire to allow chefs to have a sort of farmers market experience that they could not otherwise get, which I think is a really interesting model, and one that I think has informed what you've done. You leased land in Bellport from Isabella Rossellini. You have several acres there, 3 acres of vegetable crops, very diversified. And tell us about what why you got into it, and what your approach is.
I got into it because I wanted to bring the diversity of a small farm to the kitchen door. Because when I was in the restaurant business, organic farms and local farms were just becoming something that people were really interested in supporting and utilizing local products in the restaurants. And some of the chefs could go to the Union Square Farmers Market. One in particular built a special bike to get down there. And I always envied him because I never had that time. I was always in the weeds, as they say in the restaurant.
One of those big, like, market,
Yes.
market baths? Yeah.
Peter
I've seen those, yeah.
was a chef at a place called the Savoy. And he had it together, and he would go down there and come back with a basket full of beautiful things. So when I started the business, I thought I want to make it easy for chefs because not everybody can make the time to get to the farmers market. And so I feel like knowing me is very close to being at the farm because I talk to them, I tell them what's growing, I tell them if it's the first cutting or the second cutting of something, the size and shape of it. I can take pictures and send it to them. We can FaceTime each other and I can show them around. And so I just wanted to bring ease into the lives of chefs because it's a challenging job. And I thought it would just be a lovely service to be able to give them that experience and to grow the highest quality produce I could. And I have a very small farm, as you were saying. I leased from Isabella Rossellini, who preserved 28 acres in Brookhaven, where the farm is. And thanks to the Peconic Land Trust, she was able to kind of undo the building rights on the property. There were 15 building rights intact, and the Peconic Land Trust really helped her negotiate how to make it a farm, which wasn't an easy process. It was a complicated process. And so they were very instrumental in helping us get the farm to where it is today.
Great. And you have a CSA also, right?
Just started a CSA last year. That was Isabella's idea, and it was great. I was nervous about doing a CSA because I've never been paid up front for anything. So it was a heap of Catholic guilt on my shoulders. I was like, oh my God, I received money. I didn't give anything to anybody. So, because the restaurants, they pay me later after I drop things off. So, but it was a wonderful success. It was terrific because it's just such an intimate experience having people come to the farm to walk through the fields. Every Saturday they come for pickup. And we have You Pick Herbs, and now we're doing You Pick Flowers. I don't know how that's going to go with the current situation, unfortunately. But it's just been such a joy seeing people in the greenhouse, in the fields, in the herb beds. And I really feel like I'm growing food for my community. I feel so closely connected to the community. And especially during this outbreak, the farm has become even more important in people's lives. And I really feel in my heart that if anything happened to me, if I needed help from the community, they would be there to help me because we've had such an outpouring of support this year and double the interest in the CSA. So I feel very lucky, grateful that Isabella suggested doing a CSA because it's one of the greatest things I've ever done as a farmer. So
that's great. That's great. Well, all right. Let me now introduce Jennifer Halsey Dupree from Milk Pail. So the Halseys go way back. They, let's see, Jennifer, I think you and your sister are the 12th generation of your family to
correct.
farm in Watermill on the shores of the Mecox Bay, which is really, that's amazing. I mean, that is really amazing. You were one of the oldest farms, not just in New York State, but probably in the country. Now you farmed this land since the 17th century. Not you personally, but
Don't I look good?
really amazingly well preserved. And since the early 80s, it's been an orchard, and that was your father's doing. And you do sell to retailers and restaurants, and you have also a very, very active and beloved farm stand. I've heard it is one of the most beautiful farm stands on the East End. And that business is, I think, is run by your sister Amy, if I'm right about that. So tell me,
Yes.
and you also have
Right.
you picked. So tell me a little bit
Yeah.
about. I mean, we kind of know how you got into it, but not really. Tell us about that.
I was born into it. Maybe it's in my blood. I love the outdoors. I love not being cooped up. So I actually, worked as a kid on the farm and then kept going with it and went to Cornell University for 4 years, graduated. And spring semester of that senior year, I was questioning whether I really wanted to do this, but I had one of my great professors, Warren Stiles, who since passed away. He looked right at me and said, "I know you can do it." So he was always a great support. And I came back to the farm, and it's funny looking back on all of those years. I know, Dad, you're watching and you're going to go, "Oh, thank goodness she finally admits, I thought I knew everything, but I still don't know everything." And that's one of the joys about farming is you can plan all you want. You can say, "I'm going to do this, this, and this today." But guess what? That's going to happen tomorrow because something else is going to come up today. And I know Patty and Jen will agree with that. Yeah, I was born and raised here. And during the situation, my 2 children are extremely blessed to be able to run out the back door and run around on 60 acres of land. And they truly appreciate it. Will is beside himself because he finishes his schoolwork and is outside doing something on some sort of tractor in the afternoon, which is great. I will admit on a rainy day, he is on his iPad though. He does like Minecraft. But he is growing things in Minecraft too. But that's
great.
how I, was introduced to farming. And I don't know how to explain it. I've never been able to explain it. Just to be able to watch, like we brought the bees in this morning, and to watch them fly and know that, ladies, we've got flowers here for you, have at it. And then to see apples grow and to do it over and over again. And, I'm going to admit there's challenges, but to grow a crop at the end of the year and provide food for people who truly appreciate it it's an exceptional experience.
Yeah. Jen, your parents also live, they're still living on the property, right? Right near you?
Yes. It's nice. The kids can run right over. They go see Grammy and Grandpa, and it's great. "Mom, I'm sleeping over." "All right, see you tomorrow." And I had that same experience. My dad's mom lived right next door. We would go over and see Grandma Halsey all the time, and she always had ice cream pops. Always the best place to go. Grandma and Grandpa always have the good treats.
That's true. That's what I've heard. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me. I want to ask some different questions. Some that will get us into some, I hope, useful areas. So Patty, this one's for you. So there have been women farming for as long as there have been farms. There's nothing new about that. For farming has always been an all hands on deck enterprise, a home-centered occupation, as Jen Halsey just described. But do you think that women farm differently than men?
That's a very difficult question. I feel that we farmers, male and female, farm similarly because we all are concerned with the same thing. building healthy soil and growing healthy plants and trees. And I feel that the principles of farming are the same. And so the work is the same for men and women. And I've worked for men, with men, and I feel that, you know, they taught me everything I know. Dale Halbrick is a farmer out in Sag Harbor. I worked with him my first year farming, and he taught me everything. I worked with a guy named Paul Hamilton. He was amazing. He ran Eco Farm on Long Lane in East Hampton when it first became the farm that it is today. And so I don't know if I farm differently, but I feel that it's important to have both energies. I feel that men and women contribute energetically something a little bit different, and I feel that the combination is a strong thing, you know? I feel like when a woman is running the operation, maybe it attracts more women workers. I don't know. I feel that this year I have, today I had 3 women and 1 young man helping me at the farm. And so maybe having a woman-run business is kind of more of like a welcome to other women to come join you. And perhaps that feels welcoming, you know. I don't have children, and I'm sure that, you know, the 2 Jennifers can talk about that, like what it's like to also raise children and raise your vegetable children, you know. I feel like, you know, that must be a challenge that I don't know. I just stay awake at night worrying about my plants. I can't imagine also raising humans on top of that. Because the plants are so fascinating, as Jen Halsey was saying. It's like they're never the same thing twice. Nature's always changing and growing, and there's so much to learn about nursing a plant, you know. And if it's more of a female trait to mother things, I don't know. I see men also picking up the tender little thing and wanting it to do well. And so I don't know. That's my kind of answer to the question. I don't know.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Jen Halsey, I remember you, I think you are, so you and your sister took over the farm and or farming, working the farm, managing it together, but you're the first generation of women farming in your family. Is that right?
That's correct.
Was there ever a moment when anyone said, "What?"
Not family wise, no. Dad always taught us, if you can't lift it, figure out how to do it with a forklift. He never, and you know, you were asking Patty about the difference between men and women. My kids rode on the tractor seat just like I rode on the tractor seat. I rode with Dad, my kids ride with me. In our family, it doesn't matter. If you have a will, there's a way. The nights are as long as the days. What are the other comments I've heard quite a bit of? So, you know, it's about, and it's not, farming's not work. It's a way of life. And like Patty said, there's something about it, you know, just seeing everything grow, everything's different. You're always into something different. There's never anything the same. So both, and my parents, what I will say, is they never forced us into it. They said, this is your choice. Where I do think there are farms all over where you're forced into it and it might not be something that you wanted. So for me being here, I'm glad I'm here because I chose to be here. I'm not forced to be here. I want to be here. And it's great that I have my whole family here. It's, you know, as much as my dad, you know, he's always frustrated, not always frustrated, frustrated sometimes when I do one thing, not the other, but it's nice having him there as that extra help. hey, I've done this for 50 years. This is the shortcut. So I've, back in the beginning, I didn't always listen. Now I'm like, hey, Dad, what do you think? So there's a lot of things going on. I don't know. These are tough questions for me to answer. I've never, in all my years, I've never been able to give a straight answer. Why did you choose farming? I don't know. I like it, I guess. Maybe keep it simple.
You seem
stupid.
to. That's great. Yeah, that's great. That's a good reason. Well, there are a lot of challenges to farming, and I'll get into some specific questions about them. But one of them I want to sort of point this question to Jennifer Pike. So you have a big farm. It's big. It's big for a small farm. You're farming 70 acres. And you're farming in an area with some of the most expensive real estate in the country, in the world. So I want to know a little bit more about how this happened. I think you talked a little bit about this, but how did this happen, and how did you manage to put together this much land? Because I think your farm is incredibly productive, and that's an important aspect of having the land to do that.
Yeah, well, we were very lucky in the beginning. When my husband started, he was able to pick up some of the smaller parcels that the big potato growers, they were too small for the big potato growers, and they were perfect for us. So renting was a cheap option for us at the time. It still is, as a rule. So we were able to rent our way through most of our careers here until, the pieces would come and go. They would change hands or whatever. People would want, somebody else, whatever. Things would change. But then the big one came whenever our landlord, who owned the property under the farm stand, needed to sell for estate purposes, estate planning purposes. And we always kind of thought, maybe we could swing it, mortgage the house for another 100 years, sell off the first kid or something to, manage it. But he wanted $11 million for less than 7 acres, I believe.
Oh,
So that was kind of like a really stunning moment. And our first thought was, we better call the land trust, because we knew we were over our heads, obviously. And we really didn't think there was any way. And they showed us there was a way. It took a long time. It was 4 years of a campaign that they put together. A lot of our customers were very gracious and generous with their time, and some people with their money as well, which is nice to see. They put it all together. The Land Trust coordinated the town and their preservation fund, which is the money that people spend on their transfer tax when they buy a new home. That goes to the town. So the town has that money to spend. The Land Trust encouraged them to use it for our project. The county got involved with it as well. And then the town restricted the Land Trust restricted our deed severely. So it always has to be in vegetables. We're kind of like a Habitat for Humanity situation now. We have to sell it to another farmer or back to the Land Trust for not a huge increase in value, which is perfect. It's exactly what we want. And it has to always be in vegetables. So it was like, we couldn't have wished for anything better. And the Land Trust made it happen over, like I said, it was so complicated. We never, ever could have done such a thing. And they've also been involved in other parcels that we farm that way as well. So we're always grateful to them. Happy to do
That's
that.
great. Yeah, that's great. So the Land Trust has been involved in many farms. I mean, in addition to the panelists we have here today, there are plenty of people at other farms who are are able to farm due to the Land Trust's activities. Are you aware of? I mean, I think in other parts of the country, these kinds of programs haven't been as active, and I think it's made the East End, in particular, Suffolk County, sort of a paradise for farms and for farming. Do you see that in you know, when you look at other farms in other parts of the country? Do you notice that difference?
Well, it's a double-edged sword, I think. You know, most places don't have property values like we do as well.
Right.
So, but it is nice to be able to own our own property now, because the biggest problem we have is deer now. And some landlords don't want deer fence, which I totally understand. And also it's an expense to us for something we might have to walk away from someday. So owning the property is a really big deal for a farmer. And just having that, being able to rely on the property year after year, because you do take care of it. You cover crop with an eye towards next season and what needs to go in, what's best, you know, for that situation, and the rotation and everything else. And you pull out any one of those little pieces of the puzzle, and it's you know, changes everything. So we know we're lucky.
So the stability of the stability of having that sort of a deal in place that, you know, that is preserved as farmland and it has to be farmed, and that's the key.
It's huge. It's really huge.
That's great. Yeah. Well, I think lest we leave everybody with the impression that farming is easy. I'm really interested in what, whether there are times when you feel that it's hard, and when it is hard and not fun. What are those times, and what are the issues around that? Let's see, Patty, can I throw this one to you?
Sure. It's one of those things. For me, it was building soil on this property. When my landlady got it, it was mostly wooded. It was a training barracks for the Army in the 1920s, and forest grew up through the foundation of the buildings there. And so Isabella, I think, originally wanted to clear like 8 acres, but it was so traumatic just clearing 3. I mean, you can imagine in 100 years' time, raccoons and box turtles and all of these things were there. We had to make space to make it a farm so we could utilize the space for farming. And she went and preserved all the specimen trees. She went through the forest herself and tied ribbons around everything that we left there. There's a lot of beautiful linden and copper beech trees and white pine and things like that. So beautiful. But when, and also she had the foresight to chip all the trees, all the roots, and save all that topsoil that was taken off when the trees were cut and the roots were pulled out. And there was building foundation under that soil. I mean, I must have taken out 5 tons of concrete with a subsoiler myself. We would, when we first started planting, we'd be hoeing potatoes and we'd hear, and we'd be on top of a foundation. We pulled out a chimney, we pulled out pipe systems. It was crazy. And the organic matter percentage was less than 1%. It was like, I call it was like a trauma patient. It was so traumatized, the soil, and it was missing all the major nutrients. It had low organic matter. So over the past 5 years, I was leasing land elsewhere, and I would drive my tractor over there on a trailer from East Mauritius, which was about 20 minutes away, to Brookhaven to start spreading compost and putting down cover crops. And I feel like the challenging thing is, as an ecosystem is finding its rhythm and its life force is building, for a farmer it's challenging because the plants show you everything that's missing. So, and you don't know till the plants get going what the problems are going to be. So for me, that means uneven growth patterns within one bed. It means initially bug and disease pressure, because a plant's immunities, when they're stronger, they're more impervious to diseases and bugs. And so that's the hardest part. The hardest part is being patient, because nature takes time. I mean, in my experience, because as I've been farming, I've always leased kind of like junky pieces of land. Like Long Island's not east of Eden, where it's like, come take this fertile river valley and turn it into a farm. It's like, this once had a building on it. Now you can grow on it. So, you know, I mean, I have really moved from place to place too. And so that's been the challenge is, so it takes about 3 years, in my opinion, to take something that's totally trashed with like zero organic matter, missing all the nutrients, and see a real difference of that soil starting to really come back to life. And in that period of time, you just have to be patient. And it reminds me of the restaurant business, because you do have to do some things like on the fly. It's like, oh my God, this bed of beans isn't producing and it's being eaten by Mexican bean leaf beetles. Is it worth keeping? Take it out and plant arugula. You know, you're always tweaking. And farming really teaches me not to be attached to my ideals, because I always picture a utopia every single year. I picture myself going, have a tomato, these beautiful things. I don't picture tomato hornworms and blight. But as I've been farming, I've been a professional farmer for 10 years now. I always say the gap between my utopia and my reality get a little smaller each year, you know, and the current
We have to call you on that utopia thing too, because everybody, Patty told us that prior to the Zoom that she had just been amending her field and was covered with fish emulsion. So
I had to get this field amended because we have to plant it. And there's one of the magnificent things about farming, as you've all been talking about, is the beautiful things in nature that you see. So there's a bird called a killdeer who put its nest right in the middle of my field. So we prepped the field all around the nest, and she gave birth to 4 babies, or they hatched 4 little babies. She had 4 eggs, they all hatched. And so I've been waiting and waiting, and finally the babies are out of that area and they moved out to a different part of the field to eat something. I was like, oh my God, I have to get in there. We have to plant lettuce, and we're getting ready to plant zucchini and all this. So I went out with a amendment spreader into the wind, and I put dried fish and molasses and all other things in my hair. So when I came home, my hair was like,
you smell good to me.
Delicious. Scratch and sniff my screen.
All right. So Jen Halsey, tell us about tell us about the ugly side of farming in your neck of the woods. Tell us about a time when you thought,
How do I narrow it down? No, just kidding. I was going to say, how do I narrow it down? I'd have to say, yeah, there's, growing the crop, that's hard enough. That I would say all of us are good at. We can come up with ideas on how to get around things and how to fix that soil with fish amendments. But when it comes to finding labor and keeping up with government regulations and food safety and things like that, I think farming in the past 20, 25 years has changed significantly. It's not just growing that apple on the tree and picking it and somebody eating it. Now, now we have to be really careful. Who touched that apple? There's a lot going on now that wasn't going on, say, 20, 30 years ago. So there's a lot of outside the box of farming things that I have found a little bit frustrating at times. I bring guys in on a visa, and with the COVID and everything, they're texting me at 6 a.m. saying I can't get on the plane. They won't let me on the plane. If I don't have these guys, we can't keep going. There's no one here that really wants to do manual labor. Even now, I would be hard pressed to find people that would be willing to continue on. And then the whole food safety issue, people have to be aware of, where the food comes from, who grew it, what happened to it, where did it go, how far did it travel, who touched it. And now we're in a whole new situation where there's a lot of unknowns here. How are we going to operate with COVID? How are we going to operate, like Patty said, you cut flowers, or you pick strawberries, or you pick apples. There's a lot of people that really want to get outside. So there's going to be a lot of things going on. So not only do you have that, okay, oh my goodness, a new insect showed up. You have, okay, did the water test come in? Did I do my payroll taxes? Do I have this on time? Jen Pike knows all about that. She was in finance as well. So there's a lot of underlying issues that are going on. And I don't think there's any one thing. There's always something. And, many businesses have that. You always have that hiccup in the road. And sometimes you just want to sit down and say, all right, I'm going to go to bed and get up, and we're going to start with a fresh head tomorrow.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
the
one
last
of the
one.
things that I remember hearing from you, and I've heard this from other farmers too, is the extent to which acts of nature are an issue for you. I mean, it probably, nature obviously affects your business a lot more than most businesses. And you were telling me about the marmoladed beetle, I think it's called, that we're starting to see more of. And I was like, unbelievable.
I take that back. When Hurricane Sandy hit and I saw 3/4 of our farm underwater, yeah, that was pretty severe. That was pretty enlightening. I never want to see that ever again. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's those things. Yeah.
Jen-
The stuff. I don't gamble because I gamble enough here. And I think
Jen,
Patty and Jen will agree.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Every
Jen,
year.
how about you? You have what do you see as your sort of the things that maybe keep you up?
Yeah, all of the above. I mean, in different bugs, different issues like that, different payroll tax. No, same payroll tax problem. But yeah, I laugh when people call and they're like, can I talk to the, accounts receivable? I'm like, that's me. And then, or, can I talk to the payroll manager, HR? That's me too. It's kind of ridiculous. Jack of all trades, kind of master of none thing. And I mean, somehow it works. We all kind of manage to muddle through these things. Some of us better than others, but it gets done. It's great. You have to love it. You really do have to love it. And there are definitely times I remember in the beginning being just so completely muddy and exhausted that I fell asleep. We were actually dating. We weren't even married, and I fell asleep at his dinner table. I just was like, out. Because I'd never worked that hard in my life.
Great date.
I'd never been outside all day. It was crazy. You gotta love it.
That's great. That's great. So, well, there's a new challenge for all of us going on right now, and I'm interested in hearing from all of you about how you and your farms have been affected. And first of all, I just want to say how happy I am to see that everybody is healthy. That's wonderful. And my understanding is that your families are also in good shape, and your workers. But tell us a little bit about what's different, what you're changing, how you're adapting to what's going on. Patty, you wanna start us off?
Sure. So, well, when we harvest food, we wear masks and gloves, all of us. Anything that is going to be consumed by the public for the entire time we handle it, when we harvest it, when we wash it, when we pack it, when we deliver it, we are wearing masks and gloves. We try to work in separate parts of the field to practice social distancing at work. And when we're working together, we wear masks. We have a sanitizing station set up with rubbing alcohol and paper towels and gloves and water that has a little bleach in it and soap so we can sanitize our phones, sanitize our hands. It's a drag. I mean, it is. And I'm also using something called Sanidate 5.0 peroxide that we're diluting and dipping everything in. So, you know, it's an organically approved product, and I dilute it on the lighter side. They suggest a parts per million solution, and I go in the middle of low to high, and just as an extra precaution. So I've been washing the greens in that, and when we bunch radishes and turnips we did today, we wash them off and then we dip everything in the Sanidate. And, you know, so that's what we're doing. And we have discussions all the time about not letting our guard down, you know, because the days are getting more beautiful. And one of the things about farming is you feel free. I mean, I pick something out of the dirt, I run my hands through my hair, and then I eat a sandwich or somebody else's or drink out of their cup, you know? And it's like, we don't do that anymore. We don't have that freedom. And, you know, so that's how it's affecting us. It takes time and more time. And, you know, and I wish it wasn't like that, you know, but that's how it is. So, and I feel good about the fact that we're taking all these extra steps because the public trusts us to take care of them, you know? So, so that's what we're doing. That's it.
Has it affected the way that you distribute what you grow?
I mean, yeah, people want it more than ever before, you know? So that's terrific. I mean, I've never delivered to CSA members. I've always just done restaurant sales up until the CSA started. But the restaurants, for myself, 60% of my income was restaurants and is restaurants. This year, I doubled my CSA membership, and I kind of left it open to let more people join. And the restaurants have been in touch with me, but they have limited hours. They have limited seating. A lot of them are becoming markets or doing takeout, but those hours are limited. They're only allowed to be open for like 3 to 4 hours for people to come pick up. And, you know, they're hurting. So when I sell to restaurants, I have to be careful with my pricing. I can't, you know, they can't afford what they used to be able to afford. So I don't even know, I haven't even dipped my toe in that pool because we're going to see how it goes serving the CSA first. And then I'll see what I have for wholesale after that. Mm-hmm. So it's major. Mm-hmm. It's major. And I really feel it. And I have friends that have 3 restaurants in Brooklyn, and they came out to the farm a couple of weeks ago, and I felt like they were refugees. They were like, it's so hard emotionally and financially for all these restaurants. And I want to work with them. You know, I want to help them. I don't know what that looks like. So yes, in that way, the current situation has really changed the landscape. And I won't know till we get going exactly what that looks like for me in terms of doing business with the restaurants. So, you know, but they some of them also turn themselves into markets, and they want to offer a CSA distribution as part of what they're selling, in addition to whatever they produce at the restaurant. And I'm going to do that in some places too. So we'll see. But boy, oh boy, I mean, you know, the restaurant business, that was why I got into farming, to serve the restaurants. And they're all friends of mine. Everybody I serve, either I've worked cooking with them shoulder to shoulder in the kitchen, or, you know, so I have 3 restaurants that I serve. I've actually worked either for them or with them, the chefs that own them. And so it's really tragic, that part of what's happening.
Yeah, yeah. Jen Halsey, you've got, I think you were describing some of the challenges that you've got, which it sounds like a lot of it's going to be in the fall when the apple picking starts. Do you have any thoughts about how you're going to do that this year? Or?
Right now, I'm glad our rows are spaced 18 feet apart. Makes a huge difference. We have a lot of space as far as the U-pick. We'll have to, I think we'll have to see how it goes. Early on in the season, we typically aren't that busy. We've always had a hand washing station there. I'll probably have quite a few more. And just educate people on, washing your hands before you eat your food. And we'll have to practice more social distancing with all the customers, but I would hope by then they are understanding of it and aware of it. We don't do much in entertainment at the farm, which is good because people will be able to come and pick their apples and pick their pumpkins and have plenty of space. We're lucky that we have plenty of space and we can spread out. As far as the store is concerned, we're allowing people in. We've also provided an online store so people can go online. If they prefer not to come in, they can order for pickup or for delivery, and that has helped quite a bit. But we're finding that there are a lot of people that are antsy and want to get out. So they, are traveling long distances and coming out and saying, "Ooh, there's a farm stand open, let's go in." So it's hard. People want to be able to walk around. And when you kindly ask them, like, "Look, we'd rather not have your entire family in," that's going to be the difficult part, is just, trying to be as nice as possible to accommodate those that are in the same boat as all of us. We all want to get out. So we'll just have to do the best we can. And I think it's going to be a learning curve for sure. The online store was a learning curve, but has been successful so far and helped us quite a bit. And I think helped a lot of customers that don't feel as comfortable coming out. So we're glad to offer that. And then
I was able to get some of your products through my local farm on Shelter Island. Sylvester Manor Farm had some of your products.
Yes.
I was because I can't, right now I can't get to you. So that's another, obviously that's another way for people to, for you to get your things to people.
Right. As like you said, you can never predict farming, but last year we had an incredible crop. So I had enough apples left, but we've been going through them quite quickly. We have been providing wholesale to other growers. I know Balsam Farm's been putting together boxes, Amber Waves. So there's quite a number of people putting things together, and we're doing the best we can to supply apples. I mean, it is May. It's kind of crazy that we still have apples, but we're able to. So we're going to help.
The best John and Golds I've ever had.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's technology now that helps keep them longer. And so we've been able to do that, which is good. You just keep plugging along and, keep washing your hands and covering your face and washing everything around the farm and the farm stand. So we're having to add a lot more cleaning staff and be more conscious about ourselves and whatnot. But as long as we all work together, it works out.
Jennifer Pike, have you all seen a big change in your business? But I'm assuming your farm stand is different.
Well, yeah, it is. Well, yeah, we're all a little different
for April.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we have a few more weeks to go before we open the farm stand, and we're watching everybody else and see what they're doing, see what we can copy and make better, or do as well. We're definitely concerned about it, of course, and we're hoping everybody will be, prepared with a mask and gloves, like everywhere else you have to go these days. Jim was just refitting the partition on our transplanter. The two people sit in the back and put plants into the ground, and they sit pretty close together. And so he rigged up a big partition that it's crazy looking. I don't know how long it's going to last, but it will work for our purposes. Right. Keep everybody safe as best we can. it's tough because it's very, I find you miss so much when you can't see people's smile or expression and just their eyes. And I'm looking forward to the end of this, let me tell you. I'm sure everyone. I hate this.
I feel like I'm having to learn to read smiles and eyes. I mean, I'm getting better at it, maybe. It's kind of tell by their eyes. But
Right.
So have you any changes in the kinds of things that you're going to grow based on what's happening? Are you planning for, I don't know, more root vegetables or, different kinds of plants, or are you sticking pretty much with the plan?
We are with the plan. We are, kind of already decided and planned out. And seeds are ordered. We always have a little of extra of everything, it seems, to the rules. So if people are really into canning tomatoes or something, this is the year. This will definitely be the year. Yeah. So hopefully.
That's great.
Hopefully we won't need to.
Yeah. I don't know if Yvette, did we see any questions come from the participants, or should I continue with some of my questions?
Well, so we're at 7, so I think maybe we'll try to wrap up by 7:15. So there are a couple of questions from the audience, and so I could throw out one or two from here. One, and this was early on, but and maybe Patty, just really quickly, somebody had asked, what's a CSA? So,
CSA stands for Community Supported Agriculture. And so you buy a share of the farm. So you pay a farmer up front. For myself, it's 15 weeks, and everybody gives me $600 for 15 weeks. It's $40 a week I do 7 different vegetables a week for people to pick up at the farm. So you're giving a farmer money in a time where they really need it. In the springtime, when in the winter is when people start signing up. And so you get money to buy amendments, to start paying staff, to buy your seeds. And so it's really helpful because it provides income when farmers really need it. And you're investing in the farm, and people take a chance when you join a CSA, because you're saying, like, yes, I understand if there's a hailstorm or locusts come or whatever, that these things happen, and that you understand that, and that you're willing to take a chance. And so that's what CSA is, community supported agriculture. And you're actually buying a little piece of the farm, and for however long, some farms do it from Memorial Day through Thanksgiving. I do Memorial Day through Labor Day. And it's
they're always based on a growing season, right? So I mean, it's always does anybody do multi-year?
I do a little fall CSA too. It's less after Labor Day
separately
until Thanksgiving. Yeah, I do that
separately though.
Yeah. So it's a wonderful thing, and it's also interesting for people because you get to try some different things. So every week when I give the CSA members their bag of vegetables, I send out an email to all the members with ways to prepare everything that they're getting, just in case they've never seen lovage or, a salad turnip, or we're growing some kind of weird things like an Asian wing bean. Hope it turns out. And, noodle beans and whatever, just some cool, interesting things that, that you probably wouldn't pick out for yourself if you went to a supermarket. So it's fun being in a CSA because it kind of forces you to try things that you normally wouldn't, because you don't know how to cook it. You don't know what it tastes like. And so it gives you a chance to really open your mind to trying different things,
It's interesting what a big uptick there has been in interest and subscriptions to CSAs, not just at Early Girl, but in general at farms in the area in the wake of the COVID situation. Many people are signing up for CSAs who for a share in a farm who never did before. And I think every farm that I've spoken to that has a CSA program has told me that they've seen a big increase in the number of subscriptions this year. And I think it has to do with some you were talking about this actually, Patty, these issues of, the only term I can really use is food security, and people not entirely sure that they're going to be able to get, food. And that's, it may or may not be a rational feeling, but I think it's a feeling that a lot of people have to some extent right now.
Definitely. And I'm sure the two Jennifers will feel that as well. As Jen Halsey was saying, I mean, she's like selling out of apples, and I'm sure when.
Would you expect that this time of year, Jen? That's unusual, right?
The number of apples that we had, we've sold a lot more than we normally would now.
Right.
Typically, people were coming in and buying 2 and 3. Now they're buying 20 and 30 pounds.
Wow.
That was early on. And I think, early on, people were nervous. They were like, wait. So as things have kind of mellowed out and they know that we're here, but we're still seeing a lot of people come in because we're another option to the grocery store. We have other, we've got other produce in there as well. So, but yeah, I think there is, it brings people back to the farm and not just King Cullen or Stop and Shop, which is good. It's nice to, to have people know where their food comes from, and that, even though we're out in a touristy area, there are farms here and there you can find really good stuff.
Right.
Because it's fresh and local. It hasn't sat on a truck somewhere, and that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, definitely.
There's a question out there related to energy efficiency on your farms. I want to know, and they were talking about fertilizer, water use, tractors, or just different aspects. Are there things that you're doing on your farm that are, related to conserving energy, and how are you implementing that? So I guess I'll throw it out to any and all, whoever wants.
We run entirely on solar at the farm stand.
Wow.
That's right.
A bit of trivia there.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
great.
We can run both cash register scales and deer fence and the water pump through the solar panels that are right there in the battery pack. That's good.
Wonderful.
And Jim would love an electric tractor. He's really researching.
We've done quite a bit with cover cropping and organic matter, as Patty was talking about, and increasing the organic matter. So it has reduced the amount of time that we've spent going over the fields. We do reduce tillage, so there's a lot less use of tractors. In those cover crops, we use legumes, which provide nitrogen directly to the soil. So we've reduced the amount of fertilizer that we've used. So just with these cover cropping systems and enhancing the soil, we've reduced quite a bit of tractor use, fertilizer use, and seen an improvement in the crops. Even with reduced tillage, you do get weeds, and that's one of the things that is tough to get used to. You will see them, whereas a conventional, you can cultivate, get rid of those weeds and get rid of them. So there are growing pains in the cover cropping system, but we've done it now for 10 or 15 years. And like Patty was talking about the soil, that's where your money is. And it's done a tremendous job and helped us save a lot of money on fuel, tractor use, and fertilizer.
Yes. I mean, for me, it's true. I've spent a lot of time building the soil, and now it's starting to pay off. And
Yes.
we really practiced no-till just on one field where we tarped it, and we just removed the tarp today. So we put a tarp over the cover crop to just deplete the light, and within 3 weeks it completely died down. And it was incredible because we peeled back the tarps on, I guess it's about a quarter of an acre, and I could stick my hand almost up to my elbow into the soil. It was so soft. And I'd like to do that on the entire farm, but of course there's a huge learning curve there. I didn't even know how to get the tarp off the field. I tied it to my tractor and almost ripped it in half. I'm like, pull this thing. So, so yeah, you know, that's how we try to work efficiently and build healthy soil. And, you know, so hopefully it takes less energy in the future to grow a healthy crop.
I saw a question in the Q&A list that I wanted to pull out, and I don't know which of you would want to tackle this, but I do want to pose it because it's something that I have heard a lot, and that is what are the circumstances that have led to farmers in, I think particularly in upstate New York, having to dump milk? And you know, that's the example in the question. I think there are other examples of disruption, you know, the disruptions of the pandemic causing farmers to have to destroy crops or dump crops. Can one of you take a stab at explaining how this happens, why this happens?
Don't all jump at once.
I nominate Jennifer Pike.
Oh, thanks. Thanks a lot, Charity. The way I understand it is that the milk producers are set up for a single use system. Like they put it in giant, I don't know, barrels or something like that to go to an institutional setting, and you can't switch from doing that to putting it in 5 gallon or, you know, a gallon bottle too easily. And obviously it's a very perishable thing. And these are just kind of, I mean, like a random example. I'm not sure how this goes, but I think that, you know, and there's just not the storage facility for it. So once the system starts to back up, I think they just get stuck with it, and it keeps coming. Obviously you have to keep milking the cows to, you know,
Right.
in hopes that someday this will end and you'll have a market again. But yeah, it's dreadful to see. It really is.
Yeah. And it's very unfair for me to ask you this because you have an extremely diverse farm. And I think that one of the hallmarks of a farm that does end up having to occasionally destroy some of its crop is a farm that raises one thing, that does one thing. In those cases, I think, well, maybe you could tell me, but my impression is that they are more vulnerable to disruption like this.
I imagine so. And certainly on the scale they are. I mean, you know, we might have to throw away some stuff in the morning that, you know, goes bad overnight, but it goes to compost and it goes right back, you know. It's not like it hits the landfill, and it doesn't feel the same as watching them pour that milk down.
Right.
It's an awful thought. But yeah, honestly, I don't know. I shouldn't be speaking to this.
This is great, and there are tons of questions, but I think we'll probably have to start to wrap up. And I just got an email from Patty, from your mom, saying hi.
Oh no. Hi Mom, I love you.
Glad it was your mom and not my dad.
She calls herself a stage mom. She's the best. I can do no wrong in her eyes. Thanks, Mom.
And there are lots of words of encouragement in the Q&A also to everyone, and from Kate at the East End Food Institute, saying, just reminding everybody to be nice to your farmers and appreciate and be supportive, and this has been fantastic. So I think we should probably wrap up. I just want to say thank you to Charity and to Jennifer.
Oh, my pleasure. It was fun.
And this has really been a fascinating conversation. There are lots of questions, and so I'm going to save all the questions, and I'm probably going to send them out to the panelists, and then I'll try to get back to people with some answers on some of the things that they were asking about. And so we'll just do a follow-up afterwards. We're also going to be posting this recording online, so stay tuned, and you'll see more of that. And just a reminder, actually, next Thursday, we're doing another panel. So we were able to pull together what was our Long Island Grown panels that we would do at Bridge Gardens normally this spring. And so we're going to do a panel discussion next Thursday at 7 o'clock also on Zoom. So if you haven't registered, please do. And Laura Donnelly, who's moderated lots of our panels in the past, will be the moderator this time. And she will be joined by Leighton Gunther, who's from Quail Hill Farm, Greg Kessler from the Hoppy Acre, Ira Haspel from KK's The Farm, and another charity, Charity Joy Robinson from Kombucha. So we're looking forward to that. And I just really want to thank everybody for, tuning in. This was a great crowd. I really appreciate everybody. The questions were fantastic. Charity did a great job. And Patty and Jen, you were fantastic. And thank you
Thanks for putting this all together, Yvette.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Yeah,
having us.
thank
It
you,
was so
Yvette.
nice meeting all of you virtually.
Yes.
It really
Great.
was.
It really was fun.
I'm
Thank
so
you.
happy to know all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Everybody be safe, stay healthy, and
For sure.
have a great night.
Eat your veggies.
Good night.
Eat your veggies.
An apple a day.
Sorry, we had to.
Or 30. Bye, you guys. Good night.
Good night,
Thanks, Patty.
Thank you.
Charity.
Oh, I tried bourbon in my apple cider.
How was it?
Fantastic.
Woo! All right.